Lisa from Been There, Got Out. Yes, I know this is a weird time for me to come on. We usually come around lunchtime, our time, and it is 8 a.m. ET. And the reason that we are on so early is because we are interviewing a friend of ours in the UK. So she's been up for a little while, and I am super excited to talk to her. There she is. Let me get her on here. Kate, that she did on her TikTok, which has to do with one of the things that concerns us more than anything.
Hi,
Oh, hi,
Lisa.
how are you?
How are you doing?
Good, good, good. I feel like we're both like much more bright-eyed this morning than we were.
Definitely, definitely a lot more bright-eyed. A little bit more makeup on as well than last night.
Yeah, me too, me too. Yeah, but I'm so excited to talk to you because I just started saying I saw your video, and you were talking about a parenting class that you had to take, which taught you some things that maybe you weren't aware of. And before you introduce yourself, our community, which I told you offline, is dealing with very difficult divorce, separations, custody battles, and we say co-parenting hell. And one of the things that we want to do is give them practical, actionable advice on ways they can improve, not just for their case, but in their lives, and especially as parents for their kids. And I know that today's conversation, some people may be resistant to because they're thinking, well, I'm the safe parent and I'm the protective parent and I'm doing everything right. But in our world, with our clients, I'd say the taboo word of parental alienation is happening in some form, whatever you want to call it, coercive control, parental alienation, abuse by proxy. This is 90% of our hundreds of clients are dealing with some form of this, whether their ex is doing it or they're accusing them of doing it. And so I have this little button back from my high school teaching days that said, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance, because ignorance can really harm you.
It can
So
cost, yeah, it can cost.
cost big time, not just in court, but with your children. And these are the most precious lives, right? That
Yeah,
we as parents, especially as safe, healthy, we think protective parents, like I would think that we would want to do whatever it takes to
yeah,
be amazing role models for them.
yeah.
So if you're here and if you're open-minded, hopefully you can learn something which can improve your case and improve your parenting.
Mm.
So Katie, now that I've gone on for a while, you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little about who you are before we jump into this topic?
Sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. So this is not supposed to be a triggering live today, but disclaimer, you will probably find it a little bit triggering, but it's all for the greater good. So my name is Katie, and I have set up a platform in the UK called the Single Mama Club. It's, I say, my job to take my single mamas from broken to thriving, making them emotionally bulletproof against all of this conflict that I know you are all so familiar with, and to thrive, to become financially independent from their ex, and just to basically create the life that they want to live on their terms without
And
the
you have some
control.
dads too, right? So it's mostly moms, but you have
It
a couple
is,
of guys
yeah.
too.
We do have,
So
yeah, we
dads
have
can
one or
learn from this
two,
too.
yeah, one or two single dads, which I absolutely love. You know, they don't have any qualms about being involved in the Single Mama Club, which I love. I mean, that's just a great space to come from. But yeah, I have found this topic to have triggered a lot of people. And I don't know if you saw the other night, but I had Super Nanny Jo Frost herself reshare my video as well, and talking about single mums and single parents and the role of us and how it is so much of an invisible one. Add in a whole big dose of post-separation abuse and high conflict divorce, and it's a recipe for disaster. And like you said, it's taking away from that time that we've got with our children, where we don't get these years back, and it is so precious. And we don't want to be in this space of struggling and being stressed and anxious and constantly arguing. We just want to be. That's all we want to do. And so my role is very much helping my ladies in my Single Mama Academy to achieve that, regardless of how the other parent chooses to behave. I want to get them to the point where they can take the hits and it can bounce off them, because we can't control what that other person does. And I'm sure you talk about that a lot with your community. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that it has to impact our peace, impact our happiness, and impact our time with our children. So that's my goal and my mission with the Single Mama Club. And coming around to the topic that we're here for today is very much about us as the safe parent, because I'd probably hazard a guess that everyone watching this live right now, everyone paying attention to the reel that you're going to be posting afterwards, if they're watching, then they're probably the safe parent, and they would definitely class themselves as the safe parent. And if I walked up to a safe parent and I said, are you responsible for parental alienation? They'd probably, hand on their heart, go, absolutely not. Oh, there was a couple of times I said this, but that was, in the early days with heightened emotions. But no, I encourage contact, I encourage phone calls, etc., etc. But what if I said to you that at some point very recently you will have been responsible for parental alienation, and you
Hard.
won't have even realized it? Yeah, it's very triggering, because we don't want to, because when you go down that rabbit hole, ultimately you see the end goal, or the end, I should say, the end of that, the dead end, is the impact on our children. That's all it's going to be. It's not about point scoring and getting one over on the other parent. And, no matter how dirty they play or how low they go, ultimately it's the children's happiness that's going to be impacted. So what I was wanting to bring to your community today is just realizing and highlighting all of these subtle non-verbal cues that we just give out in our energy, in our expressions, in our tone of voice, in all of our non-verbal communication, because that is responsible for 93% of our entire communication. It's 7% is our words.
You know
And that's
what?
mind-blowing.
That's so interesting that you said that, because we teach something called the 7-38-55% rule, and 7% is your words, but we
Yeah.
say 38, and I have to credit Chris Voss from his book Never Split the Difference for this. 38% is your tone, and 55% is your body language. So your tone and body language is that 93%. Exactly.
100%. And it's something that we do need to be aware of. And when I say this is all going to be triggering, it's because I'm asking parents to take a step back, look at the situations that they've already been through, where they've had maybe chats with their children, handovers with the other parent, and they felt like they've actually done a really good job in that situation. But I know that it can always be done better, and it can always be done with more clarity, more awareness, and more understanding about how you come across and why it is so crucially important. Because James Baldwin, the famous American writer, had this amazing saying of children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. And that is so true. And that just goes to show that they watch us so much more than listen to us. And when I say watch, I mean they're watching all of the facial cues, potentially a roll of the eyes, potentially a sigh, potentially avoiding the conversation about time spent with the other parent, whatever it may be. And we can go deeper into this.
Yeah, Katie,
But
forgot to say a little bit about your background in terms of that you've worked with children
yes,
for a couple of
didn't
decades.
even,
This
yeah,
isn't just
25
like
years.
somebody coming in with her opinion. I mean, you
Yeah.
have experience.
Crucial element there. I've got over 25 years of working with children and young people, so communication's my thing, which I found became so useful, all of that experience, when I became an IVF twin mama. And then when I became a single twin mama, it's paid dividends. So I understand the best ways of talking to children based on what their comprehension is, making things nice and simple and bite-sized so that they can absorb it as much as possible. Although we've just said they don't listen to us. My children definitely don't listen to me at times, and I'm sure everyone's exactly the same here.
Right.
But it is from that background where I'm coming from, because I've seen it and I've witnessed it as well. Not only am I aware of it, but I've seen times where parents have spoken about the other parent or whatever in front of the child, and I've watched the child rather than listen to the parent, and I've seen them digest that, and I've seen the confusion, and I've seen it not land and not sit right with the child. And as parents, we don't want to do that, and definitely not consciously, but we do need to emphasize how important it is to look at what it is that we're doing unconsciously so that we can take those steps. And this is why it's so triggering, because us as the safe parent, we always feel like we're coming from the best place. We've got our hearts are in the right place. We don't want to rock the boat. We want to do everything right. But we do have to swallow that pill of the fact that there might be things that we could actually do better.
Right. And why wouldn't we want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And this was something that from this course, so to come back around to what you were saying earlier, it was a mandatory thing that we did here in the UK as part of a court process that we were going through. And it was all about the communication between co-parents and how it can be made better. And me being childcare background, I thought, well, I know how to, do handovers, make sure, check the key information. Have they eaten? Have they slept? Everything like that. But for me, I had to, and I talked about this on my podcast recently, that I had to really swallow a pill, because I say about how we need to be emotionally bulletproof against our exes. And I was very much going through these motions of working out how I could be emotionally bulletproof. But leading up to that point where I became bulletproof, I just thought, I don't want to have anything to do with him. So I'm just going to be happy, welcome the children in at handovers, give a quick hello, but I did not make any eye contact. That was my one thing. I wouldn't look at him, but I would still remain really positive and upbeat and all this kind of stuff. I did this course and it said not making eye contact is a very big thing. This wasn't from me disclosing. This was just a generic thing. Often parents don't make eye contact. They don't want to look at each other. They don't want to have any kind of communication. And it just got me to thinking. I thought, oh my God, I do that. Right, I do that. Okay, next time, next handover, I'm going to make a conscious effort to really look at him and say things like, how are you? Have you all had a lovely time? And talk as a collective and look at him. And let me tell you, that one change in that first handover since I did the course, I saw a difference immediately in my.
All right, so I have to pause you because I know that this, like, I can feel the collective fur bristling on necks around the world to hear that all of our clients have dealt with some form of domestic violence. How
Right.
can you look at an abuser? How can you do that when they're dealing with so much trauma? I know this is a question many people would want to say to you.
Mm-hmm. It is a tricky one.
Yeah.
And I would probably say, I mean, here in the UK, it's a bit different. If there is violence that has gone on, often there's maybe a non-molestation order in place, and they are not allowed to see each other. So obviously that's by the by. But if you're in that situation where you are having those handovers, you do see that person, it is just you and them. I would always say you need to get yourself emotionally bulletproof. You need to heal. You need to make all of your peace with what's happened. And I'm not talking about forgiveness. I don't believe in forgiveness and forgetting. I just believe in accepting it for what it is. Let them do them. Focus on what makes you happy and letting go of whatever trauma by healing. But ultimately, in those handovers, I would act as if nothing was amiss.
So it's a performance. So really, you
100%.
have to think of it as a performance. You don't genuinely have to feel anything. Just realize this is something I have to do. If my partner Chris was here, we have all these little slides we make, and we hold up an Emmy, or sorry, an Academy Award statue, and be like, we're going to make you the best
performance.
yeah, the best actor, because sometimes you have to do things for the better of the greater good.
Absolutely.
Like you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant.
It's really not. And that's why it's so important to then have a community like yourselves, like I've got over here, where you can unload.
Yes.
You know, with your friends, your family, that's when you unload, you open the box and you let it all out, because you're totally valid in everything that you're feeling. That's totally understandable. It makes sense that you feel that way. But when it comes to maintaining the relationship with our children, and we are not responsible for nurturing the relationship with the other parent, but we are definitely responsible for not destroying it or not impacting it in any way. Um, and these types of subjects and conversations, our children just don't have the emotional maturity to deal with it. They won't understand it. Even if you give them a snippet, they'll want to ask more questions. They'll want to try and understand, but they physically can't. They don't have the capacity to. And so by doing that, we need to always give ourselves praise, because if we've managed to look that other adult in the eye, have a polite interaction for the good of the children, and then gone on our ways, my God, is that a win? I mean, what a way to take your power back from someone who was violent to you and really made you feel like you weren't worth anything.
Right.
You
And
weren't even worth the
to
money.
show that you're not afraid, even if you are
Mm.
afraid. So the
Oh yeah.
term, as you were talking, I kept thinking of is
Mm,
self-regulation, that
mm,
we ourselves need that support to be as calm as possible so that we
mhm.
can do what's called co-regulation with our children, help them figure out how to process the world.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can't do it unless you yourself are solid. And people always say,
Mm.
my kid needs help, my kid needs help. And we're like, start with yourself.
Yeah,
If you can
yeah,
calm yourself down, your children absorb your feelings,
yeah. And
right?
that's
And that's
tricky, because we're programmed to put ourselves last. That's
I
what
know.
we've all grown up like. That's what society has embedded into us. But you're exactly right. You can't pour from the empty cup. You can keep going and get the odd little drip and the odd little drag out. But ultimately, if we're helping our children to process emotions and process this situation of, I don't want to say a broken family, I don't like that term, but a family that is not a nuclear traditional style family, there's going to be a lot of emotions that come along with that at every age, at every stage, throughout the entire process. How on earth are we able to really take our children through that and help to guide them when we haven't done it for ourselves?
Mhm.
It's such an important topic. And another layer to that is, why wouldn't you? Because this is your life as well. And if this is something that's impacting you and your happiness on a day-to-day basis, why would you choose to carry on living your life like that? Take the
Yeah.
steps to make it better, solve the problems, find the solutions. If it doesn't come to you like that, fine, but don't give up. Keep going, because the answer is out there, the solution is out there in some way, shape, or form. And it's your job as a parent for your children, but also more importantly for yourself in your own life, to get deal with this, box it off, put it in the back of the closet. You've dealt with it. It's part of your life. Doesn't make up who you are. You're not that person that you were then. You're totally different, upgraded software, better version of you. And it's now time to take that and move forwards and just keep getting better and better and better.
Yeah. I want to note something, and I know because this conversation is so fascinating. I'm like, I want to make sure I say this. And I know we only got to like one thing that you guys did so far with class and how it helped, and we'll get to more. But our community, because they're dealing with what we call legal abuse or litigation abuse, they're being stuck in the system with a difficult ex. They are bled dry financially, emotionally. They're exhausted, and they're feeling two general emotions:
Mm,
rage, like this isn't, yeah, rage actually, and the next emotion goes together: injustice.
mhm,
Why should I have to keep engaging? Like, what? It's not
mm.
fair. Like, everything has happened to me. It's not fair. I worry about my kids. But what you're saying is, it's for your kids. It's for your kids.
Yeah, ultimately. And I think first and foremost, it's so important. And I say this to the ladies in my academy, you've got to feel your feels. You've really got to sit for however long it takes until you kind of hit that point where you feel like, right, I'm done feeling that. I've felt my rage. I've felt my, excuse me, I've felt my injustice. And it's not fair. It's not fair. None of us went into parenting expecting to do it on our own. None of us got married or in a relationship with someone, expecting it to go down the routes of solicitors and lawyers and courts and everything. None of us prepared for this, and it's not fair. And we really have to take the time to honor that and saying it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not. But is it going to define you and carve out the rest of your life and how happy you are and the experiences that you're going to have? I know what I'd rather choose.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think it's important for people to note that even because people meet us years after they've separated and they are still feeling these very powerful feelings, and it's affecting their lives, it's consuming their lives. That there's no reason to feel ashamed if you have been out for a while and you're still really angry. Like any time is the right time to say, I can change. I can rewire my brain chemistry, or I could just perform. Even if I can't, I could perform because it's going to help my kids. And then what we deal with is it's going to help your case as well.
Yeah.
But that's a separate issue. Anyway, Katie, keep going.
Fake it till you make it, I think.
Exactly.
Definitely fake it till you make it. And it's funny because when I set up the Single Mama Club, it was very much, I wanted to help the newly single mums, the ones that are literally a couple of weeks, a couple of months into being single, right? And feeling all of that responsibility. It hits you like a ton of bricks. And I remember almost having a nervous fucking breakdown. But actually, as I've gone on with my journey, most of the women that I'm helping have been a single mum for at least 18 months, 2 years. And some people have been single 8 years, 10 years, and they're still feeling it. And I think it's not to feel bad at the fact it might have taken you so long to acknowledge this and go, do you know what? I've realized that there is a way that I can live my life without this, without the hurt. I can break free from it. And then more often than not, what I find is that they're like, why didn't I do this years ago? I've just wasted so much of my life.
Right.
But
where were you X years ago?
Yeah, where were you? What have you been doing? But there is something to be said about better late than never. Better late than never.
Right.
Completely. Because can you imagine what life would look like if you carried on that way? If you carried on being eaten up, waking up every morning, feeling like having that moment of you don't remember anything, and then it hits you, and you remember the hurt, the betrayal, the gaslighting, the abuse, all of it, and then you're just living your days with this pent up rage. No one wants to live that way, and there is a way to break free from it. There really, really is.
Well, also your body gets profoundly affected by carrying around these powerful emotions. So I saw a question that said how we're talking about getting support from people who understand and are trying to be what Bill Eddy calls positive advocates. So not fueling the flames of the conflict, but thinking, let's focus on how we're going to help your kids. That's what Katie focuses on. I do too. But for me, I focus more on helping you get through the legal system and the co-parenting afterward, knowing that you'll probably be back in court again.
How do you overcome
the deep trauma?
That's it. That's a loaded question.
I know, it's a big one.
You can. And this is something, I just had a session with my Academy ladies last night. And just to give you a little bit of background. So I've got my program and it's very much like a do this module, tick, do this, tick, tick, tick. And there's one lady, and when I post this, she's going to know exactly who she is. But she hit the Academy and she went bang, 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 tick, 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 tick. And so we were talking last night and I had to give her a bit of a real pill and just say, this is not linear. This is not I've done this, tick, tick, tick. It's not a tick box exercise. This is something you have to hear the advice, absorb it, habit stack it. If you've ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and embody it and practice it and live it. And remember, these are habits that you're breaking. And for most of us, if we've been in an abusive relationship, we're conditioned to always listen to that other person, to put their needs first. And it's difficult to break these bonds. It's difficult. It's like learning a new skill, a new language, but you absolutely can do it. But to overcome deep trauma, the first point of call that you need to do is feel your feels. It sounds really cliche and a little bit too like Gen Z, but there is something to be said about in those moments where it hits you, just if you can, or even schedule yourself some time. I remember in my early days of just being so on it. The twins were only 2. I was potty training them both at the same time. I was trying to do the house, the dog, work. I had my own business. It was just a nightmare. And I thought, right, Sunday, I've got some time at about 10. That's when I'm going to have my meltdown. I'm going to go out for a walk in the woods. I'm going to find a bench and I'm going to have a full on fucking breakdown. So whether or not you want to schedule it in or kind of, foot loose, fancy free, do it whenever you feel you can. But ultimately, whenever you feel something comes up, just sit with it. If you feel angry, if you feel rage, you've got to sit with it. And for me, I often get out my phone and I will do a selfie video and I will just talk to myself. It's for no one's benefit. No one has ever seen these videos. It's just for me having this therapy moment between myself, talking out what it is that I'm feeling. Why do I feel this way? Asking myself, why? Why do I feel? Well, I feel angry. Why? Well, because he did this. Why? Because it hurts my children. Why? Because they don't deserve this. Yeah, but why? Because we didn't bring them in. Keep going down that rabbit hole. Every time you have a moment of rage, feeling how unjust it is, sheer sadness, sit with it. That's the way to get over deep trauma.
It's like video journaling, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I've had journals. I remember when my dad passed away, and I had one of these journals, like what I've got here, big one, and I filled it front to back. Anytime I felt like I needed to unload. But I don't know if you've noticed, I talk quite quickly and I've got a Northern English accent. So everything kind of rolls off my tongue and I couldn't write as
Mm-hmm.
quick as what was coming out. And I was finding I was missing chunks out it was falling out of my brain. So when I do these videos, it just allows me to get it out. It's like I'm talking to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another point of it as well, is when you become a single parent, to kind of help you get over that loneliness and the feeling of unjustness. It's knowing that you are your actual own best mate. You're going to get yourself through this, and acting in whatever way your best mate would act towards you, doing that for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And also being well, you say best mate, we say best friend. Um, but being your own best mate, best friend, which sounds cliche to some people, I think it's important to recognize how far you've come. Like you've lived with yourself all these years, you got through that kind of relationship, and also to acknowledge that you've learned a lot of powerful skills. I feel like victims of domestic violence had a much not the ones that were still stuck with their abuser, but getting through the pandemic was easier for us because we
Yeah.
were already used to surviving.
Yeah.
We were already used to living under very difficult conditions,
Mm.
and finding hope in there. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Like you've already learned a lot and probably have more resilience than you imagine, and that's going to keep you going.
There's that great saying of, you've already survived 100% of your worst days. That you
Mm-hmm.
can apply that to anyone. And I think it's really important as well to never gaslight yourself. There's always going to be someone that's worse off than you. Always. But that doesn't mean that you don't get to acknowledge how you're feeling, validate all of that, and say, it's not fair. As far as me and my life goes, this is pretty shit. And I'm not happy. This isn't great. I'm not happy. I'm not thrilled that this happened to me, or I am now in this situation. But it doesn't define you, but
Right,
you're the one that chooses whether or not it does. And
right.
that's not only just for you and your children, but your family, the rest of your life. It's important. It's important that people take the time to go, all right, what is it that I need to do? I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to bloody do this because you know what? Without sounding like a hair advert, I'm fucking worth it. I'm going to be doing it. So
Right.
let's crack on.
Right. And you got to do it whether you like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so important. And isn't it funny how we came on here to talk about parental alienation and all of this, but actually it all comes back to us. We're the ones that've got to focus on us so that we can be better and do better with our children and for our children.
Right. And we have a lot of control over outcomes of certain things.
Absolutely.
Especially in terms of how our kids turn out. I know one of the biggest fears I had was, how are my kids going to be okay? Mm-hmm. And we have this weekly legal abuse support group, and one of the things we focus on is, how is my kid going to be okay with a parent like that? Mm. And or how do I co-parent with somebody who's impossible? But there's so much that you can do. And we know the research says if the kids have one healthy parent, somebody that can be self-regulated, they have such a better chance. So we really need to be that person and do what it takes. Even if some of this content might be triggering, if there's ways that you could be a better parent as well as improve your case legally, like, why wouldn't you want to know?
I said something to one of my ladies in the was it in the academy? Well, it might have been on TikTok. Anyway, and she was really triggered by something I said. I was on a TikTok live, that was it. And she went from being very, very polite, spoken to her loads on my lives, and then she got triggered. And you could see she was irritated in her written responses. And I said, the only thing I'm going to say is, if you're triggered, that's your body telling you that this is something you need to work on.
Oh, I love that.
You need to.
I'm turning that into a post, Katie.
Yes. Definitely. I think, if you feel like, oh, this offends me, or that's not right, or I don't believe in that, whatever, then that means that you need to sit and think about that, and you need to, again, come out from yourself, step away, take your ego out of it, and work out, what is it? Why do I find this so triggering? And often it will come back to something that happened in your childhood that you need to heal from. That's the bottom line. Something that happened. Because when you think, well, no, it was something that happened at work a couple of years ago. Yeah, but why did that trigger? Well, when I was at high school, why did that trigger? Yeah, well, my parents never validated me, and you'll see as you go down this kind of trauma healing, shock. I've done a lot of it. Everything comes back, and so again, it starts with us, and you really need to put the time into yourself, and you're going to be happier because of it. What better argument do you want? You're going to be happier. You're going to have a happier, more balanced, peaceful life. And what's not worth it?
Right, because you're going to have agency over your own life. I know for us, the communication part involves getting the ex's voice out of your head. That's the thing that keeps people still feeling this sense of overwhelm. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Or a sense of dread. I'm going to get in trouble if I don't do everything perfectly.
He's not going to like that. She's not going to like that.
Right. They're going to take me to court. Oh no, the judge is going to think I'm a terrible parent. They're going to take my kids away. So
let them.
Here are some ideas when we get to it of things to do better that make you look like the amazing co-parent that you are, or that you want to be.
Yeah. So that when you can confidently stand in your truth and say, go on then, you're going to take me to court, bring it on.
Right,
because
exactly.
I know how I've been behaving, and I have managed to evidence as much as physically possible about this. And I know that I am absolutely right in everything that I'm saying in terms of the children's welfare. I mean, I don't know how it works in the US, but the UK, our family courts over here, they are so focused on the children's welfare. That's the main focus. And what my ladies in my academy are struggling with is because I'm helping them represent themselves over here with the help of Legally Nick, who I know you know. So one of them the other day just wrote out this is what I want to send to him, and it was this huge, great big thing, and I was like, that's not even you wouldn't even present that at court. It's fueled with emotion, and courts don't want emotion, they want facts. Right. And if you can stand in your truth and factually say, I'm a good parent because of this and this and this, here's my evidence to back that up, he's actually bullshitting because of this, which I've evidenced that it happened on this day at this time and whatever. So there you go, judge, make your own mind up.
Yeah. I mean, because the courts are focused on resolution
Mm.
here. It's like, I don't want to hear about all this stuff. I want to hear about patterns of behavior over time
Yeah.
and how it impacts the child
Hmm.
or the case itself. But we have a lot of pro se or self-represented clients too. And we say, you always want to go in there and be like, here's what I'm asking for, and
Hmm.
here's why I'm entitled to it, and then show your evidence.
Yeah.
But again, without emotion, unless it's helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think as when you're going down that road, you're starting to go down that rabbit hole of the high conflict ex saying, I'm going to be taking you to court or whatever. It's, they can do that. They're obliged to do that. If you want to go down that route, I don't really want to, but hey, let's dance, let's crack on, because I can confidently stand in my truth and know that I am a bloody good parent and I'm doing everything I can. And it's almost like, because you've put in the work already in just your everyday parenting, that you are not, your peace is not impacted by them saying that. It's not great. No one wants to go down that rabbit hole. But if you do, then you're prepared because you have done all the work. You've taken steps back. You've looked at yourself and how you are enforcing things with your children, co-parenting dynamic, all of that. And
Yeah.
so it's more for peace of mind rather than, it's that time before, between I'm threatening you with court and then getting there. It's this bit. This is the bit that takes away from the joy of your children and the nurturing and the relationship and everything. And that's my goal with my ladies, is to
Yeah.
make them feel like they're empowered. And it's not going to be a nice process, but leading up till then, they're like, look, no, I'm just going to go in, I'm just going to say what I do, because I know that I'm doing everything in my best power to be the best parent.
Yeah, we got a question, and I want to address this one. It says, I had audio recordings and video of him calling the kids names and screaming at them over years. Court still gave us 50-50. So in our country and in a lot of other countries, we've done many interviews with attorneys all over the world. Courts generally don't like recordings,
Mm.
audio and video, because they don't know the context. And
Mm.
now with AI,
Oh,
everything
God, yeah.
can get disrupted. So one of the things we do with our clients, so Kate, you're talking a lot about testimony,
Mm-hmm.
like live oral testimony. We do a lot with written
Mm-hmm.
documentation and how to start building the foundation of a case, which could address some of the things in recordings. We say, we call it strategic communication. It turns hearsay into evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the most powerful exhibits that you can give, is your written communication before you go to court, on top of your testimony. But that's what you can hand in as your proof of,
Yeah.
like, this is how we've been communicating. And actually, Chris and I are putting together, and I mentioned this to you the other day, Katie, this course that should be out this month or next month. It's called How to Communicate with Your Ex Without Destroying Your Case or Losing Your Mind. And so much of what we're talking about here has to do with that. You need to be self-regulated in your communications, because we always think about the invisible audience and the invisible court's microscope
Mm.
that they're watching you
Yeah.
under. So you have to behave yourself, but you
Absolutely.
need to have your meltdowns privately.
Oh yeah, you need to. You need to. We're all human. We've all got emotions. It's part and parcel. And I would kind of judge you if you weren't having the emotions, probably, because that would tell me that something's seriously wrong there. Um, but yeah, the UK is very much the same here. I've done the video recording thing myself. Lots of ladies in my academy have done it. And I always say it's not to be relied upon, it's to back up. So I always say, after every interaction, anything that happens, write it down. Have
Right.
a file on your laptop and be as factual as possible. And I said, do not ever elaborate or exaggerate, because that will come back and bite you on the ass. And you want to remain as factual and unemotional as possible. Just state the facts. State the facts. Child said this.
Objective
I said
facts,
that. Yeah.
objective,
Yeah.
not your opinion of the facts. Let
Exactly.
them
Yeah.
form an opinion of
Yeah.
the facts.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you've taken the recording, sometimes when my children get sad and they say they don't want to go to the other parent, I'll record it, but it's purely more so because I just want to remember what they've said, so that I can then listen back and I can think about how my responses can be better for the next time that happens. It's not necessarily to use as evidence. It's just for my own. I'm a forgetful fish sometimes, and it'll just fall out of my brain. But at the end of the day, if it went down that route of, say, there was an accusation made from me, and I stated what it was in my factual evidence, and they said, well, what, can you back this up? And I could go, listen to this. So it's like it's in your back pocket. It's there and it's ready to use if needed, but you don't want to lead with it, because then you look like a crazy woman walking, or man going around privately recording things, which it's not a great look.
Right. And
you don't want to do that.
in our country, different states don't even allow that. So
Oh
it's very
wow.
tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So baseline is to just not do it. Do it for your own benefit, and that's it. Because otherwise, I think you just undermine yourself with it a little bit. Use it to empower and not undermine, and see, again, take a step back and look at how this could be perceived by others. Because from our point of view, we're in the right, but that's not always the case. And we need to understand that's a hard pill to swallow. But we need to appreciate that, and we need to go, yeah, do you know what, actually, that might make me look like I've got a couple of screws loose. So
Yeah.
I'm
But
not
I
gonna.
love it. It kind of fits with your, what I called video journaling, like to remember for
Yeah,
yourself, to remember this happened, but
yeah,
not think, oh, I'm going to take it to court and use it.
yeah. Because we're all in fight or flight as well, and things are going to get forgotten. Things are going to fall out of our brain. Our minds are going to wipe out huge chunks of time because of constantly being in survival mode. So this is just a good way of just getting it out and putting it, like saying, right, I've acknowledged that. Lovely, brilliant. Right, it's there. It's out. I don't have to retain it. And when you start doing stuff like that, it creates more space in your mind. So then you're able to focus on other things, be more productive in another area, dedicate more time and energy to your children, and just be better for it, and be a lot less stressed because you've got an outlet, you've got somewhere to put it. I keep referring to a box. You've put it in the box, right? Fold it up and put it away, and then when you're ready, get it back out and deal with it. So
Right. Not throw it out. It's
yeah,
there.
you're just tucking it in the cupboard
Right.
around the back.
Yeah.
Move the coats and the shoes and the storage boxes and putting it back there, and then you're doing
Yeah.
it like that.
Yep. Yep. All right. So Katie, let's keep talking about some of the things that you learned in class. You said the eye contact thing was a
Mm,
huge game changer.
yeah, it really was. So my twins are, in so many ways, they're very similar, and in so many ways they are chalk and cheese. And one of them is an emotional sponge, and she's so hardwired to just absorbing everything that's going on around her, all of the energy. She just feels it, and that's like me. I'm very kind of empath like that. I can gauge people by just looking at them. And the minute that I remember I was at the top end of the garden by the back gate. That's where you can park when you come to my house. And I was doing some gardening or something, and they arrived, and I was like, oh, hi. And I just looked at him and I went, hi, Daddy, how are you today? And he kind of went like this, and he went, I'm very good, thank you. I said, have they been good girls for you? Making sure that I looked him in the eye. And then I said, oh my goodness, the funniest thing happened the other day. And I just told a funny story. And both of my girls were like that, just staring at me. And then they were like, yeah, we did do that. And then the dad laughed along, and I said, it was really silly, wasn't it? Anyway, right, you've all been good. Do you want to give Daddy kisses before he goes? Because you're not going to see him till whatever day. So make sure you give him good kisses. And the handover went beautifully. And my little girl, who's the emotional sponge, Ava, she was so happy after that interaction. Whereas before, she was very unsure. She kind of wanted him, wanted me, was toing and froing, not too sure, crying, getting sad, 1 minute happy, 1 minute sad during the whole process. And with this, she just went straight in the house, skipping down. I always leave out the same kind of a treat bowl of something nice for them. That comes down to the regulating and getting them back on my schedule. And she was so happy after that. And I really had to sit and think and kind of not beat myself up, because there's a reason why I was doing it to protect myself. But we have to acknowledge as parents that there's things that we're doing that could harm them. And that was very much an eye opener for me. Another great
Oh, wait,
one that was from this class.
pause for a
Oh,
second. So
go for
when
it.
you said about how in the past she had been toing and froing and like, no, like we talked about how kids pick up on your energy. And that
Mm-hmm.
whole uncertainty is something that we see all the time with our clients who are like, my kid doesn't want to go. Um, and I do think that and I am sensitive because, again, our audience is all dealing with domestic violence. So this is going to be really, really hard. And you can't just, we did say you have to perform, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to sound genuine.
Yeah.
Because if you fake it,
They can,
they're going to feel that too. Even though you are faking it,
mm-hmm.
but you don't need to do a whole big song and dance. I mean, Katie, that's amazing that you were able to have that kind of conversation. But maybe if if they could just do eye contact and say hi, whatever, but to not convey that uncertainty, to
Mm-hmm.
have this calm feeling. And again, we're not talking about like where there's been abuse and there's physical danger, or the emotional danger thing is tricky, but to be like, I'm okay with you guys going to the other parent. I'm not sending unconscious messages that I'm afraid of that person, and therefore you should be afraid of that person.
Yeah, yeah, because they'll pick up on all of that. You're so right. And I think what's probably important is, depending on your child's comprehension, and what they understand, is if you suddenly switch it up and you're going to be different at handovers, then acknowledge that. Say to the children, this is a great way of really showing your children your level of morals and integrity by saying, Mama's going to actually have a quick chat with Daddy today because I never talk to him, and I feel like it will just be better for us as a family if I start talking to Daddy just a little bit more at handovers. So me and Daddy are going to have a quick chat and ask him how he is, and then if you've been good, and then that's it. Or whatever information needs to be exchanged, if you're accepting the children back or sending them to him or her. You take the time to acknowledge that. That's a great moment for you to really show your children that I've been doing this and I'm kind of looking at myself and thinking it could be better. So now I'm going to do this. Like, talk to them about it.
It's also predictable. It's not this sudden shock of like, what
Yeah,
is
like
she
mine.
doing? What
Yeah.
happened? Or she's
Scary.
being fake. She's faking something, and I don't understand why all of a sudden it's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So just like anybody, people like to know what's going to happen next. I think in
Absolutely.
terms of education, you start off saying, this is what we're going to do today.
Yeah. You lay out the schedule, what's going to happen. You do it with teachers, adults, people in university. They all do this. This is what we're going to be doing today, so everyone knows what to
Right.
expect. But I think, and this is something I was talking about with one of my ladies just the other night. She's got a really tricky 12-year-old that's having a lot of big emotions, and she's being actively undermined by the other parent, and they're still in the same house together. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
And I just said, look, this is your best form of combat with this person, is to just, if there's arguments going on or whatever, take yourself away and really use that moment to your advantage by saying, oh, sorry if you heard Daddy shouted at Mummy, but Mummy's come away now. I know I used to shout a lot and we used to argue, but Mummy's decided that actually that's not good for our family anymore, so I've come away. So if you want to talk about it, then I'm just going to be over here, or be in the other room. And just, I said, that's a brilliant little seed you can just drop there to really show him how you are making positive changes, and you can reflect on yourself and say, actually, I could probably do a little bit better there.
You are modeling accountability to
Yeah,
your children.
absolutely.
And often the other parents in our situations, they're not. They're
Yeah,
never going to be accountable. So that is a wonderful thing to do, is to say, this is what I'm going to do differently. This is why I can do better.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
And not because, and being aware as well, this is what I've talked about in another podcast, is being able to apologize, say that you're sorry, accept your responsibility with no buts, nothing, no outside sources. We're all in charge of our own emotions. We all have the autonomy to choose how we behave, how we respond. And when you are then going, well, Mama's sorry because of this, but it was because of no, that just shows you're shifting blame. If you got to take that blame, you got to take it. And that's
Yeah.
the only way that we're going to be able to model that really, really well for our little, especially our little ones. Actually, no, No, it's all children. It's not.
Anybody. And
Yeah.
again, we're acknowledging this is really hard. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to go do this and
Mhm.
be different and change. Like, this is really hard. And this is going to take practice
Yeah, completely. And this
and
is what,
time.
when I said before, it's not linear, all of this. It takes time, and it is a lot, which is why you've got to habit stack it. You've got to look at what it is that you want to change, do better with, heal from, work out what it is that the first thing that you feel like is quite feasible for you at this point in time, because you can't do it all. We're only one person. And then just work on embedding that one thing. Once you feel like that's done, keep it, habit stack, and bring on the next one. Once that's done, you bring on the next one, and you bring on the next one. And then all of a
I
sudden,
again want to say about community of
yeah,
support. These are things like we say our clients not only do well in family court, but they heal faster. And a
mhm.
huge part of that is because we have this community that meets in person. Like yours meets in person too, right, Katie?
Not yet,
Okay.
not yet, but
Sorry,
will
not
do.
virtually. I'm saying virtually. We meet
Oh
virtually.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. We don't
yeah.
meet in
I
person.
was
I mean,
about
we
to say
meet
in
because
person. That's good.
we're all over the
Yeah.
world, but we do face to face for that kind of support, which I think is much better than
Mhm.
just like written stuff in a Facebook group.
Yeah. I mean, there's something so powerful about when I've got doing one of my sessions, and one of them is completely unloading, getting it all out there. And just to see on that chat box, someone says, this is exactly what I've been dealing with as
Mhm.
well. Like, the validation of that is so important, especially if you're the only adult as well, which most of us are.
Yeah.
Some of us have gone on and had other relationships, which is wonderful. But for the majority, especially the ones that I deal with, they haven't. So just to have that validation, just from someone else that
Hmm.
knows what it's like, because this shit ain't for the faint-hearted.
No.
And so when you've got someone that can hand on heart go, this is my situation and my reality as well, that's so validating and so healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see there's a couple of comments,
Mm.
but I want to have you keep talking about what else you learned. So the eye contact,
Yeah.
taking
So
accountability, getting them ready before you suddenly become a split personality.
yes,
Say like, what did
absolutely.
you do
Yeah.
a little differently?
Yeah. What do you mean in terms of correcting bad
Yeah,
behavior?
like if you you want to let them know before you suddenly shift your behavior in front of them so the kids don't become suspicious, like
Yeah.
what happened?
Exactly. So that's something that my children hear a lot. I say, if I'll keep it really simple, say if I need them to tidy up the sitting room, and I'll say, could you tidy up sitting room? Could you tidy up sitting room? I'll probably ask them, and I know Super Nanny will hate this, but I probably ask them a good 5 or 6 times. And then I'll actually say, look, you're not actually being very respectful to Mama. I have asked you 6 times now. Now, if I have to keep asking you, I'm going to have to get grumpy, and I don't like getting grumpy. So that's when they kind of know, and they'll do little bits, and they'll say probably one more time, and I'll go, right, if I have to ask you again, I'm going to have to get grumpy. Telly off. Let's get on it. Let's do this. Okay. And it depends on the age of the child, but if they need you to kind of get in there and just kickstart them, crack on. But kind of letting them know that you're you're hitting that limit. I mean, everyone has these feelings, everyone has their moments, everyone is allowed to get grumpy with their children and correct them, because they will push your buttons. But I think if it's an unsafe environment, it's a parent that goes 0 to 60 and they don't see it coming. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when you end up with really fearful children that are not too sure where the land lies. They're walking on eggshells, and that is never a good place for anyone to be. Um, but one thing I wanted to definitely highlight was passing on messages to the other parent, but via the children.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big no-no in this course, and I totally agree, because it's not your child's place to do that. They know that you're passing on the message through them because you don't want to talk to the other parent. They should not be the messenger. You should be able to have these exchanges with the other parent. And if they are really combative, like a lot of the ladies that I help with, that's when we focus on the emotionally bulletproof. We can still co-parent, and we can always come from a place of respect and being the bigger and better person. They can choose how they want to move. If they want to be shitty and send sarcastic responses, that's on them. Snapshot, download it, great evidence.
That's what I was going to
But
say. It
yeah,
strengthens
exactly.
your case.
Brilliant. You know, don't get triggered, smile and be like, he's handing it to you on a plate.
Yes, that's
He's
right.
literally handing it to you on a plate. I said, so, you know, this is win-win in my point of view, because not only are you exchanging the right information for the children and for their benefit, but you're also actually, if he's then choosing to still be difficult when you've been very grey rock, then that's brilliant evidence. Fantastic
Mhm.
evidence.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Okay, so
Oh.
any other things from the class? I don't even know how long we've been going, but I feel like we've been talking for a while.
It was ultimately just, I think the final takeaway for me as well, and this is something that I've had to put in place with a lot of my family members, not my close family members, because I know one of them's watching. But some of my friends as well, if I haven't seen them for a while, they'll say like, what's happening with the divorce? Like, are you divorced yet? And all this kind of stuff. Like, what's does he still
Are
see the
the
girl? Whatever.
are you
And
still in court?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to unload, you cannot. You have to say, I'll talk to you about that at a time when the children are nowhere near. Even if they're like down the other end, still don't do it. Don't do it, because they'll know. They will know.
Yeah.
They will know. So absolutely have those moments where you can unload and really say what you fucking want to say, but nowhere near your children. No,
Mhm.
not under the same roof as your children. Absolutely not. Because they'll
Yeah.
tell, they'll be able to tell your body language, how your gestures, your face, all of it. If they're down at the other end of the room or whatever, and they're looking at you and they're seeing how you're going, whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then they come up and go, oh, mummy's just talking about something, whatever. They're gonna know. I mean, these kids are not stupid at all. They're gonna know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I thought of something that you didn't say yet that I don't know if they brought it up in the class, but one thing that a lot of us do is we have like an intro, I'll say a colorful name for our ex in our phone.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's fun. I know a lawyer I used at one point was like, we can't submit this exhibit with that name at the top, so you better get
I've
that.
had that as
But that's
well.
something like but my kids in the because my kids are older now, but at that time they got into my phone. Kids get into our
Yeah.
phones, and that's something like I know it feels good to have like these colorful names, but you have to understand that your kid is probably going to get into your phone and they're going to see that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's something that maybe I'm assuming they probably didn't mention in class, but just from my experience, another little thing you might want to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, see,
Yeah,
Ronald
I
McDonald.
know we have lots
Yeah.
of. I
It's
actually love the
funny.
posts that say share the name that you have for your ex in the phone. Like it's
Yes.
super funny, and I've done it too. We all do, but
No.
especially if you have kids that get into your phone,
Yeah.
watch it.
You've got to rise above, I think. And like you say, we're all guilty of it. I was guilty of it. My
Oh
son
yeah,
says, like, you need to swap that name out because we cannot submit. Yeah. Yeah, Ellie. But this is part of it. This is where we kind of go, okay, it's not coming from a really bad place.
right.
It's for you, it's your way of protecting yourself. But we do have to acknowledge that actually it's not about us, and we need to, because even if your little ones see Ronald McDonald, sorry Ellie, I'm picking on you now, but yeah,
Shrek.
if they see Ronald McDonald or Shrek, then they'll be like, well, I can make that joke, but why have you got daddy as Ronald McDonald?
Hmm.
Oh, because just take it, it opens a can of worms that really you don't want to be opening. It's not
Right, and
necessary.
also it could be used against you in court
Yeah,
as
completely.
a
Shows the
form
level.
of alienation.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
And it shows kind
it
of,
would it right, it might fall under the factor of sending poisonous messages about the ex,
mm,
even
it,
though you didn't mean to, and but these are the little things we said at the beginning that you might not realize that you're doing.
yeah,
For Chris and I as high conflict divorce strategists, we want to make sure you are protected and you don't give the other side any ammunition to
hmm,
spin against you. So here's
yeah,
something, you could leave it or do what you want, but it's probably better to take
yeah,
it out and protect yourself if you ever think you're going back to court or that your kids are going to get into your phone.
yeah, absolutely. It's just not worth it. And I think as a kind of like I don't know if this could be a final thought or whatever, but if you're struggling with the how do I be friendly? How do I be polite? How do I co-parent respectfully when I've got that person that has said all of this and done all of this?
Oh,
You really have to take so much pride in being the bigger and better person. You have to embody that. You are the bigger and better person, and not just for you, but you're showing your child and your children. Because even if they're little now, when they get older and they're adult enough to really understand, they'll work it out. That's a given. It's only a matter of time. And as an adult, they will then be able to truly comprehend what it is that you've had to put up with. And if they think back and think about how loving and nurturing and calm and safe that you were, excuse me, throughout all of this, then it's only going to reflect better on you. So we really do have to embody the pride that should come along with being that bigger and better person, that not allowing yourself to be triggered, getting yourself to the point of feeling like you're emotionally bulletproof, you're confident to stand in your truth and to not fall for any more of their games. Like, draw a line in the sand now, done. I'm done, and I'm moving forwards to not be triggered by this person anymore. I'm done. I've given them enough of my energy. I'm done.
yeah. And also, I think it's a way to address your fear of the other person, to start working on how can I fake it till I make it, till I'm not afraid of this person anymore.
Absolutely. Embody it. The more that you embody it, it will become a reality.
Yeah.
What is it? The law of attraction, law of vibration. Like, embody it and be it, and it will come to you.
Yeah. So Katie, thank you so much. I'm sure we could go on, and hopefully we'll get together again and do this maybe on TikTok or another one like this. But you've been getting questions about your academy. So can you tell people how to find you and a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So the academy is going to, I'm about to drop an early bird sign up actually. So come over and follow my socials, come over to the website. All of my links are in my bio, but the academy is going to be opening again properly 31st of January, and it's going to be a 6-month long situation. I'm probably going to extend it to a year in the future because, like I said, this isn't linear. This has to be, you have to embody all of this. We do weekly empowerment hours with me. We do once a month legal sessions with Legally Nick. Catherine, I don't know where you are in the world, if you're in the UK or the US, but if you're UK, then that'll definitely benefit you. But for anyone else that is being in another country and asked about it, I say, even if it doesn't relate to your law and your legislation, you're going to be having some takeaways in terms of what to say, how to come across, the kind of legal jargon, all this kind of stuff. It will be able to cross translate. Oh, you're in the UK, Manchester. Lovely. So we do that, and you have the full program. It's a very holistic approach to becoming emotionally bulletproof, because we have my STAR transformation method, which is survive, thrive, and rise. And survive section is very much just about you getting you functioning and your productivity so much better for you to then hit thrive and then hit rise. And the end goal is to basically get you to a point where you are earning your own money with some tools and tips that I'm going to be helping you with, so that you can start to financially break free, as well as emotionally break free, legally break free, and better yourself and start to carve out that life that you want to live on your terms. That's my goal with the academy.
I love it. So I'm like, we deal with getting you through the muck and some of the
Yeah.
aftermath and the muck that stays with you, and you take them on to soar.
Yeah, exactly. I like to kind of give them, I don't want the legal aspect to be the main aspect. It is a USP for the academy, but it's not the be all and end all. It's to give them the confidence, because ultimately I want these women to become emotionally bulletproof. And part of that is being able to be confident going down that route. So that's why Nick's going to come in and help them, because most of these women are going to represent themselves. But ultimately, it's an inside job, the academy. And I think a lot of women go into this thinking, well, it's going to help me with my ex, and it does, but I think in ways they're all being very pleasantly surprised, and they're kind of really seeing how in depth we go inside the academy,
Mm-hmm.
and how they are already the better for it. And it's only been a few weeks since I've started running it. What's the price to join? At the moment, it is £41 a month. Price is going to go up in January, so please pop me a DM, and I'm more than happy to offer you a backdoor access at this price point if you would like to. I'd love to have you on board, because I think this is going to be, it's the first of its kind, especially in the UK. And I think no one needs it more than single mamas. Now, I know you have a lot of single dads over here. I don't know what your statistics are, but 89% of single parent families in the UK are single mums, which is
Wow. I don't know
shocking.
our statistics, but I think, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
It's interesting because I get a lot of hate on my TikToks. I've got a decent following over there, and it's always the men. It's always it's women too, and I'm like, I know, but 89%. I'm going to be speaking to the ladies. You guys need to find the single dada club, not the single mama club. Go
Yeah.
and find them, and you'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
thank you so much, Katie. This has been
you're welcome.
super helpful, not just with unconscious body language, but all kinds of other, I think, mindset in dealing with the whole process of a difficult co-parent.
Yeah. I really hope that everyone's learned from it and not been triggered too much. And it's always a good thing if you get triggered, because then you need to know that there's something there that you can do better and you can learn a little bit more about, so that you don't get triggered. But yeah, it's not meant to be a triggering one. I promise.
Yeah.
I promise. It's
Yeah.
only for the good.
Great. All right. Well, thanks, Katie, and I look forward to getting together again.
Yeah. All right, Lisa. I will pop you a message, and then we can do a live where you come over onto my TikTok.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Lovely. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you
You too.
later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.